Hair is just the worst. As you know, there are 5 types of hair: bald, slicked down, normal, feathered, and windblown. Only the first 2 don't present problems when making selections in Photoshop. Let's talk about a workspace that will help us manage hair. It's called Refine Mask. You can start with a selection already made using another method, such as object selection, quick selection, or the magic wand. And then you go to the options bar and press Select and Mask. Or you can create your selection entirely in this workflow. From the Layers panel, click on a mask, and then from the Properties panel, select Select and Mask. So what's involved in the Select and Mask workflow? Well, first, there's the properties, view and transparency. And those don't affect the actual mask at the very end. It's simply for adjusting how you're evaluating the mask quality. There are also some tools on the left-hand side of the screen. There's a quick and an object selection and brush. And those are for adding or subtracting areas. And they work similar to the selection tools that you've used before. In addition to that, there is a tool that's exclusive to this workflow called the Refine Edge Brush. And this is the magic formula for getting good selections of hair. What this does is it identifies areas of transition. That's where the hair and the background are sharing a pixel. So those are areas that will be semi-transparent. They will not be completely see-through, and they won't be completely opaque. So that's the part of the mask that is tricky. And this tool helps you identify those areas so that Photoshop can apply the proper processing to have that piece of hair not show up with a halo or minimize halos. Sometimes it's impossible to completely get rid of them just using this workflow. This was created by Russell Brown. And he coined the term areas of transition to refer to areas where the subject is not completely opaque. Make sure not to go into the areas of the picture where there are no transparent pixels with more than half of the Refine Edge brush tool. And you'll notice there's a plus right in the middle of the brush. So you'll know where the middle of the brush is. So the first step is to create a rough mask made up of all fully opaque areas of the subject. And this will probably look weird when you get to the hair. So don't worry about that. Just make sure that you're only selecting areas that don't have any of the background showing through the hair. Okay. So basically, this is like the best image that you could hope for trying to remove a subject from the background. And let's just go through how to do this step by step. We'll go slowly. First step is we want to create that rough mask. And what we can do is just select any of these tools over here, the main selection tools, which is the object selection, quick selection, or magic wand tool. Any of those is fine. And then you can just click directly on select and mask. And what I'm seeing here is like the object completely went away. And that's because I have a few settings I need to change. So the view mode is currently set to onion skin. And there are different options you can choose. Marching ants, that's like a normal selection, or overlay, that's helpful too. See how it puts this little red layer over your image. Anything that's red is showing that it's not selected. Or you can put it over black, and then you can change the opacity. So the 100% opaque, then that means anything that is not selected, you're not going to see. But if we have it like 50% and then over black, what we can do is choose one of these selection tools, like the quick selection tool, and then just drag it over the image, and it'll start to select. And that's a pretty good selection, but you notice there are some white areas that are popping out. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that anything that is showing up as white in this view. We don't want to see that in our initial mask. We could do that with the quick selection tool, but another easier way to do it is with the brush tool. So we'll click on this third one down, the brush tool, and then we're wanting to remove from our current select. So we'll go up here and see the little plus and minus. We want to click on the minus. That means anywhere where we brush, it's going to take away from our selection, which is what we want to do. So you can use the bracket keys to make the brush larger or smaller. The square bracket, that's the one that just over by the enter key. And so we'll just make sure none of those white areas are showing up. Just kind of slowly go through this. Maybe on our shoulder there. So here's how far I got with just kind of creating this. And it's okay if you go a little further into the area. You just don't want to see any of those white areas popping through. And some areas are just kind of, it's hard to tell if that's some of the background is showing through or not. And then we can change the opacity. So we'll make it fully black. See if there are just any kind of areas that we might have missed there. And that's lovely, isn't it? No, not really. But this is just the starting for us. So this is just a rough mask, and we'll fix it later. So everyone should be at this step now, as far as I am aware of. So I've painted out any of the areas where I saw some white peeking through. I can change the opacity to 100% to just double check that. And we have kind of, that's not a very natural head of hair there, but it'll do for our needs. So I'm just going to press. Before I press anything, I'm going down to my output settings, and I'm making sure that it's outputting to a new layer with a layer mask. And then I press OK. And you see that it hides the background layer, and it created a new layer for us. We'll call this new layer rough mask. Okay. And what we'll do now is we'll just take this rough mask layer and duplicate it. So I'm just dragging it down to this plus sign there. And then I'll rename this Refine Mask. Okay. So now I have a refined mask layer, and I can switch off the rough mask layer. While we're at it, I'm just going to select the rough mask, and I'm going to create a solid color, and we'll choose a light color. Just any light color is fine. Yeah, that should be fine. Press OK. And so now let's see if we can make this refined mask a little better. So now that I have this color fill, I'm going to click on my refined mask. Okay, and then we got this refined mask. I click on the actual mask itself. And so in the properties, I can press this select and mask button. And we'll scroll up and change the view to, let's see, on layers. Okay. Or onion skin is good. Okay, onion skin. And then if we change the transparency, that'll show us kind of where the hair is. So we need to get that hair back in our refined mask. So we've got everything set up in the properties. And then I'm going to choose this tool here, the Refined Edge Brush tool. So I'll click on that. And you'll see that this has a little plus on the inside. That's a plus to go anywhere inside of your rough selection. You always want it to be outside of that rough selection. There's a reason we did that first. And it's because we want to use this tool to show Photoshop, hey, here's where hair is, but there's also background too. Do your best. So we also need to do our best. So you just want to brush around the edges of the image, not going into any of your rough mask, because we know those are pixels we want to keep. And so you just want to brush anywhere where you see hair appear. And like I said, you'll have to change the transparency to actually see the hair. All right. So I got one side, and we'll do the other side now. All right. That is correct. Yeah. And you can use the bracket keys to do that. So just use your bracket to make it larger or smaller. And that's actually looking pretty good now. So when we look on white, that looks perfect. That looks like our original image. And then on layers, that's looking fine too. So I can just go down to here, and we'll just make sure our output to layer mask. Because we are already saving this on, we already started on a layer where we named it Refine Mask. So we don't need a new layer. We'll use the one that we're currently on. So layer mask, and then I'll just hit OK. And now we have a refined mask. And if we look at what this mask looks like, it's actually very nicely done. So I'm whoops. Yeah. So I'm Alt or Option clicking on the mask itself, and this is what the mask looks like. And you see all these gray areas. That's where Photoshop says these are transparent pixels. So don't show them at full intensity. Show them at scale them back a bit. That's how we get our semi-transparent hair. And like I said, if we're putting this on a light background like we have here, we have this color fill. It's a light background, which is similar to our original. It looks pretty good, but we're going to run into a problem. Okay, so currently everyone has an image. It's on a light background, but ring, ring, the client calls up. They actually want this image on a dark background. So it's like, okay, whatever, I'll make sure that works. So I'm just going to double click on this color fill, and then I'm going to move this down until we get to a darker color. And you start to see our problem. So the image has a bit of a halo around it. So that's no good. Nobody's going to be happy with that. So let's see what we can do to fix that. Once again, I am going to click on the Refined Mask, and I'm clicking on the actual mask itself, and then I'm pressing Select and Mask. And we're going to just press one checkbox here. In the output settings, there's a little checkbox for decontaminate colors. Just click on that, and it instantly fills all of those semi-transparent colors, pixels, with pixels that are similar to what it considers the object. So since she has brown hair, it's filling with brown pixels that are similar to the color of the hair. And you'll notice that our output has changed automatically to new layer with layer mask, which is definitely what we want. You can play with this slider down here for decontaminate colors. You can have it set to a smaller number if you want. So basically, we just don't want to see this halo. And so you don't necessarily need to go with 100%, although you can. But if you know the color you're putting it on, sometimes you don't need to do 100%. So in this case, with this color brown, it looks like 87% is working. And then I just press OK. And then you'll notice that it turns off the refined mask and it gives us this refined mask copy, which we're going to call decon. So it's decontaminated. And what does decontaminated mean? It means that none of the background is in any of the pixels that are going to wind up showing. And it looks kind of funny. So let's turn off this color fill for now. And then we're going to turn off the mask by shift clicking on the mask for the decon. And look at what Photoshop did. It's like a little kid. It went in and painted with pixels that were similar to the color of the hair. So you don't see any white here. So it's colored in all of those areas that might have some white pixels in it with colors from similar areas in the hair. And then, yeah, hold down shift again to get rid of that terrible view. So yeah, you notice there's a little checkbox that. So yeah, that's just to show you what Photoshop is doing behind the scenes. Okay, so yeah, those are the 3 steps. They're actually pretty simple. I think since this is your first time doing this, it's a little cumbersome and it feels kind of awkward. But just remember, there are 3 steps. You create the rough mask first. You refine that mask, and then if you need to, you can decontaminate it using just that little checkbox, and then it makes a new layer for you because it's painting some very odd pixels.